morning.
Hope you have your coffee with you.
Good morning.
Everybody's
no coffee
got
for me.
No coffee. All right. Beverage of choice.
Hey, curiosity question before we really get started. How come I've never heard the Supercharger mentioned at exit 99 on 79?
Oh, the one at Weston?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I've never heard it mentioned.
It's been there for a while.
I happened to go by there last week when I took the car back to get my new battery, and I saw it there. 7 of them.
Yeah, I don't use that one a lot. I have stopped there, but I don't use it a lot because generally, like that's the stretch between Morgantown and Charleston. So I'm just charging in Morgantown and Charleston, not anywhere in between.
Okay.
But it's nice to have, especially if you were coming up. I think that one's mainly for folks that are, of course, going out, your way on, what is it, 33 there, Elkins, that
or
way.
Pittsburgh.
Or they're going up and down 19, and so that might be the first one they hit once they hit 79.
I've been there a couple of times. I think Sheetz is starting to make a move to building indoor seating. That's one of the ones that doesn't have it. The first time I was there, it was pouring down the rain and everybody was hungry, so I had to drop them off at someplace else prior to charging.
Yeah, that's a good point, John. I have been there. That was another reason I don't really, like to use that one necessarily unless I absolutely have to, is because there is no indoor seating. The one in Morgantown's a lot nicer.
I was at Sheetz in Elkins a couple weeks ago with my wife's car. And I got talking to a guy next to me because he asked me what I was using what do they call it? E88 or whatever, the 15%. He said, do you notice any difference with that? I said, no. We started chatting. Then he told me that, I realized that when I saw his shirt, he was a maintenance guy for Sheetz. We got talking. And he said there will be a Sheetz in Davis once Corridor H goes through there. And I heard years ago that Sheetz had an option on the corner of, I guess it's now 93 and 32.
They do seem to be popping up. Sheetz is our Wawa or Royal Farms, like they have out towards, further east. Looks like we still got a few folks joining.
Where?
Hey, Rick, you mentioned your wife is a librarian?
Yes.
Where?
Well, she was at the Spring Hill Elementary School for 10 years, and then the board superintendent eliminated all the librarian positions. So she had to go back in the classroom, which she hated, and retired early at age 60.
Because my wife is not a librarian, but she's director of our library. And in the process of trying to build a new library because we've got the smallest one in the state.
Yeah, that's interesting, Jim. My wife's on the library board in Summers County, and we were just in Charleston for the library day at the legislature.
Oh, okay.
Facing some pinches.
All right, guys. Well, I think we're about 3-4 minutes after here. We can probably go ahead and get started. I'm looking for any new names that I don't recognize. And Stephen Wellens, and apologize if you have been on the calls before, but do you want to introduce yourself? You're muted if you're trying to speak.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right. Okay. Well, I live in Charleston. My wife and I drive a Model Y. It's a 2021 model that we got about a year and 3 months ago. And we have solar panels. We have 16 solar panels mounted on the hill behind our house. Our house is built into the hill, and the solar panels up above the house on the north side of it. And we've had those since, I think, 2015. And they provide us about, on average, about 12 kilowatt hours a day of energy. And I help people prepare their tax returns through the AARP tax aid program. But otherwise, I'm retired. I occasionally tutor students in chemistry or physics or calculus or things like that. So currently, we are in South Carolina visiting our oldest son.
Okay. And you got the Model Y down there, right?
That's correct. Yes, charging up as we speak. Yes.
All right. Very nice. We're glad to have you with us. You go by Steve?
Yes.
All right. Glad to have you with us. All right. And I don't see any other new faces or names here, I don't believe. Okay. All right, guys. Well, as far as happenings since we last met, we did have the WVEAA Expo this past Wednesday. We had that presentation. The WVEAA Expo, for those who aren't familiar, is sort of like an auto show for the construction and infrastructure trades. So a lot of folks there. You can think about all the folks involved in construction and infrastructure. So a lot of folks, and we had a session on EV charging in conjunction with the West Virginia Department of Transportation and the West Virginia Office of Energy. So that seemed to be pretty well received. This room, I don't know, we probably had, I'm guessing 70, 80 folks in there. The others who were there, does that sound about right? I know there were some folks standing in the back, but it was a pretty good crowd, I thought. And I'm trying to think anything else from that. The presentation, I sent that out to everyone yesterday. If you haven't seen that, it's just the market stuff, the market snapshot, the amount of investments going into EVs was kind of interesting. If you haven't seen that.
And you and Marty got some people together collaborating out in the hallway afterwards, which was very good.
Yeah, there's a company here in West Virginia. It's a combination of two companies that kind of, I guess, partnering. One is an electrical contractor, electrical engineering services firm, and the other is a oil and gas firm, of all things, oil and gas services. But they have a lot of experience building like palletized, pre-constructed like control systems, and for the oil and gas industry. So anyway, they're kind of partnering up to build the same kind of like prefab electric vehicle charging components and infrastructure. So they're not building their own chargers per se. They're buying the chargers. I think it was Siemens is who they were using, but they are like prefabbing it, constructing it. So it's sort of like you drop in almost like dropping in a supercharger with multiple stalls, and it just hook it up and it's ready to go. So you don't have the level of, trenching and concrete and conduit and cable, kind of cut down on all that on-site work. So it's an interesting concept. And Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're going to have a prototype at your event.
Yeah, they're going to bring the sled or the skid to Marshall
for Earth Day on April 20th.
Yes.
Okay, so if you're down in that area and you'd like to check it out, and of course, try to stop by the Earth Day event anyway, but stop by on April 20th and check it out.
I only have 2 cars that have agreed to come to Earth Day, so if any of you are coming and haven't talked to me, be sure and let me know. We have my Bolt, and we have a Mary Ann's Model S, and I think that's when Larry, I think, it was going to try to come, but I don't have any other people. And also, they've opened up 3 lecture slots on Monday. If anybody would like to give a talk, your favorite talk on EVs, and want to have an hour of time in one of the classrooms, Amy has given us 3 hours on Monday to give some talks. And I'll fill whatever spaces are left. But anybody that wants to, just let me know and I'll pencil you in.
What time do the times go on Monday, the 18th?
that's why I was waiting to contact everybody except through this get together, because Amy has not given me the times yet or the location. So as soon as she gives me the times, believe me, I'll get them spun out there. And, if it's 10 o'clock and you can make 10 o'clock, it's fine. Usually the ones during the day are set up so that a lot of students can be between classes. And there's often one that's in the early evening, like 5 to 6 or something. But we don't have to fill them all. She just has allotted 3 slots to us.
Sounds like an opportunity to get in front of some folks. Oh, Rick, you're doing your thing today. I'm sorry. It's today at the mall.
Yeah, Larry, sorry, you have a memorial service to go to. We understand. But I did put out in the Google group yesterday a request if anybody is in the neighborhood and wants to come and help me between 2 and 4. It's appreciated. If not, we understand. But we have it from noon till 6. And this is an experiment. Maybe no one will come up and ask a question. I don't know. My wife thinks no one will be interested, but we'll see.
Hey, just the way the gas prices are, I don't know. You might be surprised. I saw that an article headline that said that Google searches for electric vehicles had hit an all-time high.
I know I have a lot more people talking to me out and about now about the car and looking more at the car. I've noticed here recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife and I went to Baltimore last week, and I test drove the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and it was pretty cool. She liked it, which is always good. But I've watched 25 videos on it, and I have a reservation in for it since last May. But they're only starting. They're doing opposite of what Tesla's doing. They're starting with the low trim levels, the SE and the SEL. And there's very rare, limited trims that are out. And so I want one that has more bells and whistles at my age. So I want the limited trim. But she's keeping an eye out for it.
Rick, what's that base?
Well, she'll get a list of the VIN numbers of the ones that have been allocated. They don't get to order any at all. They just get them allocated. They've sold about 30, and none of them have lasted more than 24 hours on the lot. But normally then she has a list of people that are looking, say, for a black SEL with dual motor and long range battery. And when that pops up, she calls them and they're sold before they ever get to the lot. So she can't let you test drive one. There was a limited there, but she wasn't allowed me to test drive it because it was already sold. And so that will be what happens if they get mine, which, if they do. The problem is it's so far away. I've got to either fly back or rent a car one way to get back over there.
Did you even get to sit in it?
Oh, yeah, we test drove an SEL model. It just didn't have all of them. But in terms of the seats were exactly the same. The luggage space is the same. The front space is the same. And so we got to see, we got to learn a lot about it. We just didn't get to see all the bells and whistles. One of the things the Limited has, this is, of course, a Korean car. And in other countries, they don't have this necessity to have a rear view mirror. So on the outside. So they have the camera system. And so on the Limited, they put both the rear view mirrors to satisfy the regulations and the camera system. So when you put your turn signal on, you get a camera picture of who's in your blind spot.
What's that price point start for their base?
47,000 for the SE. When you get up to the Limited, you're probably talking about 52. And then with now there's also Hyundai's one of those that have some dealers putting the $5,000 markup on it. So Bob Bell Hyundai in Glen Burnie does not. They put on their paint protection scheme, which is $750, but that's it. Everything else is just the way the manufacturer brought it, and take it or leave it. And you have to pay MSRP plus the $750, and that's it.
Well, that's better than the invoice I saw for a Hummer EV, which was a start, $110,000 for the entry level model. The dealer markup was $50,000. So plus other fees and taxes, it was $177,000 in total for a Hummer EV.
I've seen some Hyundais 15,000 over. No, Mach-E 15,000.
Mach-E's, yeah.
Most of the Hyundais are 5,000 over. But I think that's only because I have a reservation that they're not going to mark it up any higher because they're getting a little bit of trouble with, and all of them are, the manufacturers are clamping down on the dealers that are doing this, and they're just not letting them have an allocation.
I'm starting to see some
That's
pushback
what
on that.
Ford's doing on the F-150s.
I also wanted to share this real quick. Is my screen being shared?
Yes.
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 Okay. You guys have probably seen that on our website. We've had this state park EV charging survey out there for a while. So it's just a little survey right on the homepage. It doesn't ask very many questions. So I'd gotten some responses, decided to go ahead and kind of pull all the data and throw it together real quick. So we had 31 responses, the number of people who have actually used a charger at a state park, breakdown of the brands, which isn't really all that surprising. And then they did have a chance to leave comments. So, you see a lot of this, iced, slow charge rate. There's some good comments in here too. Good experience at Hawk's Nest. Somebody complaining because there's no high-speed, CCS chargers on I-64.
Sure.
Yeah, that's an area that definitely needs some help. Takes too long to charge. Well, of course, it's level 2. Some folks, of course, they may just not be as familiar with their EV and the reality of level 2 charging. Would love to visit West Virginia state parks, but you need DC fast chargers installed. Yeah, so we've got some good comments. I sent this to Kelly Bragg to share with the state parks folks and the tourism folks to kind of let them see, what people are saying. But anyway, just wanted to share that we did get some responses to that survey. Has everyone here pretty much used one of the chargers at the state parks?
Yes, I've used the one at Hawk's Nest.
Great. You guys typically leave comments on PlugShare when you do?
Blackwater Falls.
Try to check in
try to.
PlugShare all the time, but I forget sometimes.
Yeah, same here. I try to, especially, the Superchargers I'm probably not very good with because, they've got so many reviews anyway. But the level 2s, they don't get as much use, so I like to try to leave feedback when I can.
And with the Tesla Superchargers, the car will tell you how many are open and so forth before you even approach them automatically.
Mm-hmm. Oh, on my trip down to the Expo this week, I got to try out the new supercharger in Morgantown on the way down. So it's that 250 kilowatt V3 supercharger. It was nice. Worked pretty well.
We find when we're at those, usually the car is ready well before we are if we go off, the other side of the parking lot and do things.
Yeah, I didn't wait very long. I took a restroom break, grabbed a cup of coffee, made a quick phone call, and the car was done.
Yeah.
That's the case for me in almost all of them, except for like the urban supercharger in Columbus.
The other thing. Go ahead, John.
I was in Columbus Wednesday, and anybody headed to Easton, the west parking garage at Easton, DC fast chargers are down. I'm not sure why. It didn't say why they were down for repair or whatever. So their only DC fast charger is on the east side of East parking garage. So, and then there's DC fast charging by the Container Store.
We used the one at the Sam's Club because Easton Gateway was blocked, and that's been down for almost a year. And I think part of the problem was initially the restaurants got together and they paid for the electricity, so it was free. It was one of the few free DC fast chargers, and I just think they decided they weren't going to do that, so they just shut them down, or else when they broke, they just never fixed them. Now, whether they're 50 kilowatt and whether they're going to go faster or not, I don't know, but they've been down for at least 9 or 10 months at Easton Gateway. And we went across to the Sam's Club and it worked fine.
Is that the one near the Container Store?
It's across the main street, Morse Road or something from the Easton Gateway. It's just, less than a half a mile. And it's a EVgo.
Okay, these are Chatham. Charge Point. Yeah. So over, if you look on PlugShare, there's a group of level 2s near Macy's, a large group, and then on the east and west, in the east and west parking garage, there's there's DC fast charging in level 2s also. So and they have the CCS plugs, and then there's a group of DC fast chargers with CCS and Chatham near the Container Store, and they've moved stores around up there several times. So I can't explain exactly where it's at, but they're all on PlugShare. So and they're all free on that side.
Hey, John, before I forget, have you heard anything back about the Parkersburg event, the timing?
No, and I'm gonna call them because I sent an email. I sent an email, included Kelly on it. They were supposed to call me back and set up a meeting, and she never did. So, because she was on her way to a chamber dinner in Marietta when I talked to the lady. So I sent an email, haven't gotten a response. So I'm going to call this on Monday.
Okay, and we've had some conversations. I mean, you guys know that we had some conversations with Plug-in America and Mansion staff several weeks ago. But we had another conversation with Plug-in America this week, and we're trying to set up another meeting with Mansion staff. Following his more positive comments with Energy Secretary Granholm last week about bringing the new the battery facility to West Virginia, and doing some other things about manufacturing in the U.S. and West Virginia. So anyway, we're having some meetings with them. Hopefully, try to get some more positive feedback. There has been a suggestion that we try to do a ride and drive event for targeting like Mansion staff. So I mentioned that we've got a couple of things coming up, that there would be something probably in Parkersburg in June, and we've got the Earth Day event in Marshall in April. But I don't really know that you're doing rides, right, Rick?
Well, we only have 2 dealers that even have any cars. The Mitsubishi is going to bring one, and Marcus is going to bring an EV6 Kia if they still have not sold it. And so those are the only 2 vehicles and they will both give rides.
Okay, they will give rides. Okay, so we might have some, but if we find out that they're interested, we could try to make a bigger push to have some other folks there with some different vehicles. But I
would be happy.
Go ahead, Scott.
If I could get Mansion staff in my Tesla, I'd be happy to give them a ride. And depending on how drive worthy they look, I'll let them drive it as well, with me in the car, of course.
Right, of course. Okay, so just sort of a heads up that's something that's percolating. It might turn into something. And so between those 2 events, the Marshall event and the Parkersburg event, maybe between those 2, we might get something.
Hey, so I have a short PSA. Anybody, because I just pulled up the Multicultural Festival, which is June 17th through the 19th in Parkersburg, and apparently their Facebook page has been hacked. So my PSA to everybody is, please turn on 2-factor authentication. If you do not know how or need assistance, reach out to me.
Also, there's a late announcement about Google is urging everyone as of 3 a.m. this morning to upgrade to the latest version. I'll look it up, the email, but it's an urgent one. There's like 3 billion people that run Chrome, and they're wanting you to get upgraded. There's some sort of vulnerability in Google Chrome browser.
Russian hack coming.
Probably.
All right. Well, one other thing I'll share, just in the news category. We've got 4 Mansion staff and trying to prepare for that meeting. Was trying to get another op-ed published, and that got published yesterday. So in the Gazette Mail, we've got another op-ed kind of. This one's more of a positive take than the last one. Trying to, as the folks I talked to said, pile on the positive. Try to, give credit where credit's due, that, they're taking some steps that are positive. They may not be as fast as we would like them or as large as we would like them, but they are taking some steps. So this op-ed mentions, Manchin and Energy Secretary Granholm and what they were doing. The green power motor stuff from January. WVU getting $1 million to develop an EV associate's degree. So there's some positives being mentioned, but also pointing out that, we still don't have DC fast charging for non-Tesla vehicles in the state. So we need that. That's an area where we need to do better. I got some great info. This is from Plug-in America about the amount of money that the state can get through the new legislation. So $6.8 million of funding this fiscal year, and eligible to receive up to $45 million for EV charging under the provisions of the law. So I wanted to make sure we work that in there.
In a neutral way, also mention what may happen to the VW settlement money that was going to go to charging.
Oh, yeah. We did get along these lines of charging in dollars, we did get sort of an update. We don't have an official letter yet. I wrote a letter to the Department of Transportation secretary, the new secretary of the Department of Transportation, as of last October. And the governor's office, copied the governor's office and the Secretary of Development and Kelly Bragg, asking for an update on what they had, the previous secretary had, I want to say committed, I won't say it was probably that strong. His intention was to have the 2 fast chargers that we talked about in Tamarack and Charleston installed. And he did give a time frame of 2 to 3 years from the date of that letter, which was October 2020. So we found out at the Expo verbally that the new secretary and their new plan is based on this additional funding that's coming from the feds. They don't want to use the VW settlement funds to install those 2 chargers for various reasons. So they want
along
to
the lines.
Go ahead.
Maybe that being the state money to match the new infrastructure bill, the state match of the federal funds is, I think, what they were intending, right?
They wanted to do that. They had asked if that was a possibility, but from what he said, they were told no, that they could not do that.
That's right. VW, the trustee, I think, said no.
Said no.
Yeah.
So the bottom line of all that is they're changing their mind about the source of funds for those 2 sites. So that means a delay because they don't have this new funding yet. They have to write a plan. The plan has to be approved, and all that has to happen by August 1st, I believe. So, I mean, it'll be August before they even know whether their plan is approved.
And you're talking about the Charleston and Beckley sites, or you talking about
Charleston and Beckley, Tamarack and Capitol Complex.
I think part of it is they can use that mitigation money for things other than chargers, alternate fuels, electric school buses, whatever.
They can.
But the money that's coming through for infrastructure development is just for chargers. So they want to save as much of that. They're kind of robbing from Peter to pay Paul if they can delay us another year.
Right. Now, he did say, I mean, the representative that was there for DOT did say that they thought they could still achieve the original time frame that Secretary White had mentioned, which was 2 to 3 years from October 20th. So they thought they could still meet that for Tamarack and the Capitol Complex.
Where did I read possibly third quarter this year. Did I read that somewhere?
The only thing we ever had in writing was the letter from Secretary White. That was in writing. Verbally, we had heard from people like Kelly Bragg and Perry McCutcheon at DOT that they thought they could get it done by, actually they said Q2 of this year.
Yeah, and I pushed it to Q3.
Right. So that was all verbal. We think we heard rumor kind of, we think we can do this. But the only thing we ever had in writing was that letter from Secretary White.
I wonder if we could push them to get started on the engineering and the planning on that, you know.
We offered to write them a spec and consult with them for $1 because they'll be pulling in high-priced consultants that'll consume a lot of the money.
Yeah, it'll take time. So, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Scott. That is a piece of news that came out of the Expo. Now, we're supposed to get an actual response to the letter in writing, so I want to see what they put in writing because that's probably the only thing you're going to be able to hold them to in any meaningful way.
Robert, I had to take off after your talk, which was a wonderful, wonderful talk. And I didn't, but before, when you and Kelly and the fellow from DOT were talking, he seemed to be taking credit for all of the DC chargers we have in West Virginia, which are all slow 24 kilowatt. And some of them, like at Yes Chevrolet and at the Kia in Morgantown and the Kia in Parkersburg, are not open to the public. They have to be only for the guests. So there's really very few. Astorg Auto is the only one I know of that will let a public person just come in and plug in and charge. So did he say anything more about, I think we really need to differentiate between the 150 and 350 kilowatt and the 24s and 40s.
At the end, we pretty much said that. Marty was there too, and we made that point that because he said, well, we do have these, DC fast chargers, and we said, those are 24 kilowatt. We don't consider that to be fast chargers.
Yeah.
And the graphics that I had in my presentation showed DC fast chargers in West Virginia, and it was 50 kilowatt plus, so minimum of 50. So according to that, the only fast chargers in the state are the Tesla Superchargers, which are not brand neutral, of course.
Right.
So yes, we definitely pointed that out and took umbrage with his suggestion that there's all these CCS chargers out there.
Well, even though they're all DC level 2, and I've said this before, nobody wants to listen, but it's okay. I think we ought to divide them into DC slow chargers, which are the 24, the 40 to 50s, and then the DC FC for the 62, 75, 100, 150, 250, and 350s. I think we just need to start using that in our terminology.
So my cutoff and all the data and charts and presentations that I do is usually, it isn't DC fast charging unless you're above 50 kilowatts.
I agree.
All right. Did we have somebody else join?
Hey, this is Terry Cox. I was just finally getting on my laptop instead of my phone there.
Oh, okay. Welcome, Terry.
Thanks.
Have you been with us before?
No, I've been on some email chains and things like that, but this is the first time I've had an opportunity to join the group here, and just had a little bit of trouble with the Ring Central thing.
Ring Central, yeah, it's a Zoom. It's a Zoom clone, but it can be a little problematic sometimes. But you want to go ahead and do a quick intro for yourself and what you drive or what you're interested in?
Sure. My name's Terry Cox. I live in Hurricane, and about 5 weeks ago, I took delivery of my Model Y Performance and red Model Y Performance, and so I'm kind of new to the EV ownership. I joined the group back after I ordered my Tesla back in November, but just happy to be here and start learning. I'm glad living in West Virginia, I'm glad I have the Tesla and not a different EV based on all the conversation you've been having. So.
Yeah, it's rough, and if you don't have a Tesla for charging in West Virginia, if you're in the West Coast, you might be a little bit better shape, but here in West Virginia, it's tough. Well, glad to have you with us, and be sure to jump in, ask any questions.
Thank you.
All right, Rick, did you have anybody? Oh, John, you had something.
Happened to the
Real quick, anybody following Inside EVs on YouTube, they've been having bonus episodes on like Monday or Tuesday with different charging manufacturers. So they've had ChargePoint and I was trying to find the other one they had. But anyway, go out and check out their the ChargePoint one was very intriguing and also shedded light on why the charger here in Vienna, West Virginia, has not been is not accepting the newer cards. It's because the property owner has not upgraded, even at the urging of ChargePoint, to upgrade their software or hardware on their site to be able to communicate back with the system.
And speaking of ChargePoint, there's been a lot that's happened in the last week or so. I joined a Virginia Clean Cities call last week, and on that call was a representative from ChargePoint. And so they had their call, and I kind of joined in, and they were very welcoming to the sole West Virginian that was on the Virginia call. But anyway, so ChargePoint was on the call, and he hit me up and wanted to chat later. And so he and I had a discussion last Friday about ChargePoint. He is their policy director for Mid-Atlantic. So he's more on the policy side, trying to help get incentives and work with legislators and do all that kind of stuff for ChargePoint. And so we talked about ChargePoint in West Virginia, and of course I encouraged him that we're always looking for more DC fast chargers, especially CCS in West Virginia from ChargePoint. If we could get some more ChargePoint stuff in here, and he said he would definitely keep that in mind. And if there's any opportunities where ChargePoint can help us do some work, they'll be happy to do it. And I told him he says sometimes they talk to legislators and they like to have EV owners present to give more local perspective and feedback. And I told him, yep, we'd be happy to help with that if we can. So just we do have a little bit of a contact with ChargePoint in that regard.
On charging, I'm interested in maybe a little later this year getting together with some of you and making a short film for YouTube about the psychology of charging EVs, because it's just such a different mindset, and everybody always asks you, well, how long does it take to charge? But we all know you're never empty, and it's not really like that. You're always plugged in at home. And also the whole thing about at a fast charger, I know they have a lot of problems in California. People want to fill up to 100%, and the last 20% is so slow that they're backing up the system. And it's just a whole different psychology to get used to. And I think that might be a good way to segue to get people interested in EVs in West Virginia.
Yeah, if we could do a video on charging, I think that'd be great.
I follow a fellow named Sam Alexander who looks at articles that are written and kind of debunks them. And one of them was that an electric vehicle is 3 times slower to fill up. But what they did was took the last 10% only from 90 to 100, and the guy, and it was cost more, not took longer. In 31 minutes, he got 9 kilowatt hours. And so and he never even mentioned that there's a decreasing rate and that earlier on you get much, much faster. But anyway, it's a good YouTube channel, Sam Alexander, if any of you want to take a peek. Also, I bring up the point that my wife and I, not this trip, which unfortunately, if you want to hear the story, I'll tell you, but we had to drive a gasoline car. But the last time we went to Maryland, we never stopped 1 minute for charging. We always were, when we stopped at Astorg Auto, we only were away to eat lunch at Applebee's. When we came back, we unplugged within 10 seconds and took off. And when we got to Deep Creek Lake, we plugged in, walked to the Green Turtle, had something to eat, and came back and had enough charge then to get to the next. So we and it was almost all free. That one was, we had to pay for, but at all the motels we stayed at, we had free charging. And so we made it with no time that we spent at the motel, we could charge overnight, but we never had to never wait for the car to charge to proceed on our trip. And I'm going to document with a descriptive.
Did you get your new battery, Rick?
That's why they, yes, Chevrolet called me about 2 weeks ago and said the battery was there. And could I make an appointment for last Monday? Well, I knew we were leaving on Thursday. They said, well, we'll have it done by Tuesday at noon. So I called Tuesday. Can I come on? No, it's not even out of the box yet. We don't have the equipment to lift it out. So they said it'll be done tomorrow. So I called Wednesday. They said, no, it's still in the box. We still haven't figured out how to lift it. Okay. So we went to pick it up and they said, we'll definitely be done by noon on Thursday. And it wasn't even out of the box.
Yeah, you should have run down to King Cole.
They had to go to Home Depot to buy a chain to lift it out. But they did have it done by noon on Friday. And I did pick it up when we got back on Tuesday. And it's nice to see that 259 and 260 mile range there when I was seeing 210 before.
And you're now allowed to park it inside?
Well, I've always parked it inside of, 8 out of 80,000. I went with that statistic. And even the concierge said on the trips that you go on, you have to charge to 100, charge to 100, but yes, we've never been denied at a public garage. And I've been parked in the garage the whole time. I never parked it outdoors.
Okay.
The only thing I didn't do was leave it plugged in after it was fully charged. That's the only thing I did.
Yeah.
Can I add? Okay. I just wanted to change the topic. Before we forgot, I just want to let you know what the legislative update was on House Bill 4560, which was the bill relating to the dealers, the manufacturers. Got a lot of people upset the original version, and then the general understanding is the current law in West Virginia is it discourages you or prohibits you if Tesla will not deliver a car to West Virginia as it interprets the law. So there were some changes between the powers relating to the dealers and the manufacturers of cars in West Virginia. And I was hopeful after the House of Delegates reported out a committee substitute that actually it would legalize if Tesla wanted to deliver a car to West Virginia, because Tesla does not have a separate dealership thing. But then when it went over to the Senate came up with completely new language. And so the Senate version, as I understand as an attorney, after reading it, makes it even more difficult, more clear that you can't purchase a car from, say, Tesla. Tesla makes it harder even for Tesla to do that. And the bill did pass the Senate. The House concurred with the House Delegates concurred with the Senate amendment. And the bill is now, I guess, an enrolled version and was sent over to the governor's office yesterday for his signature. So in case anybody knows, I was updating people by email, but I have not updated after the past few days. So there is where the bill is. Looks like it'll be signed by the governor. It won't punish anybody for having upgrades by the
over the air,
as you all call it. So I just want to give you a report.
Okay, thanks, Thornton. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really all that surprised. I would have been shocked if they would have made it easier for Tesla to do business in the state.
So, in what way do they make it harder? I mean,
they're making it harder for Tesla to actually have, like, they can't open a store or a service center, that kind of stuff here, or deliver vehicles here.
You have to work through the dealers.
Right. But my question was, I think he said that the Senate bill actually was making it more difficult.
Well, because it even put in more thou shalt nots in the prohibition area. See, what I was hoping, because in the definitions area, in the committee substitute that was reported out on the House side and passed by the House of Delegates several weeks ago, it actually put a language. This this article does not apply to, only applies to vehicles between, the relationships between manufacturers and dealers. But when the Senate got hold of it, they completely rewrote the bill, and that particular sentence was removed from the definitions part. So that I was hanging my hat on that. I don't drive a Tesla. I have a Prius Prime, plug-in hybrid, but it's very frustrating living in a state where they're so backward. I mean, the legislature is so backward. I'm not against, protecting dealers from abuses by automobile manufacturers. But I mean, it's very clear that they do not want anybody else to compete with them, the way I read the law. So that's why I think it's even harder. You just look at, if you were to compare what's prohibited in the new bill from the current law, I think it even makes it harder. I mean, nobody's actually done a court case and said, is this what it actually means? But the way I read it, it prohibits Tesla from, delivering a car directly to West Virginia. But Tesla's not ever done a court case, or nobody in West Virginia has done a court case to actually decide to determine what the law means or whether it's constitutional. But I've commented previously that federal law, you can have a bad law, doesn't mean it's unconstitutional. Like Maryland has a law that prohibits vertical integration of gasoline companies, and there's a U.S. Supreme Court case that says Maryland can do that. So it's not, a lot of times if people don't like a law, they say, well, it's unconstitutional. And when I say some of the fears about over the air upgrades, I said, I think that would violate the Commerce Clause. I don't think that the bill does what you're afraid it will do. But anyway, I just want to clarify that the legislature did take final action on that bill, and it may do good things for dealers, but doesn't really do anything good for people who want to purchase electric vehicles.
Well, and it's not just Tesla either. We want to be clear. It's Tesla,
Ford,
it's Lucid, Rivian, Neo, any manufacturer of vehicles that does not use the dealership model.
But my problem with that is they're happy to collect the sales tax when I bring it into the state.
Yes.
And they shouldn't be able to do that. If I've got to go out to Ohio to buy the vehicle, then Ohio ought to get my sales tax.
Well, West Virginia law is you got to pay a use tax.
Right.
About anything, if you buy it out of state, you're required, if you comply with the law, to you don't pay sales tax on it. You bring it to West Virginia, you're going to have to pay use tax on it. So yeah, I had to pay. I bought my car in Virginia and had to pay sales tax on it in West Virginia. So,
I think the bottom line that we all agree on is that we don't really think it's the state's place. I mean, I see it as monopolistic. The dealerships are using that law for a reason it was not intended for. The law was originally intended to protect franchise dealers from the manufacturers, not to say the only way you can buy a car, the government mandated way to buy a car is through a dealership. That was not the intent of the law, but it's being abused. And it's not just West Virginia. This is happening in many states.
And I keep falling back on when Manchin was governor, and his slogan for the state was West Virginia is open for business. And this violates that 100%.
Yeah,
it's holding jobs back and hurting the economy, because those service centers, those showrooms are employment opportunities for our people in the state.
And I don't think the state should be weighing in on how a business chooses to sell its product. If they want to mail order it, if they want to drop it off of a airplane to my driveway, if they want whatever you want to do, they should be able to try it, and let the market decide what's going to work and what's not going to work.
Used to be that Tesla has delivered some cars when you're far enough away from Columbus. They used to, at least back in 2018. I could have forced their hand and had them bring it to me, but I don't know if they do that any longer. But I wanted to go up to Columbus and sit with them and, get a good rundown on the new car I was getting.
Can you meet him in Gallipolis and pick it up there?
I think that may be what they're doing now, meet you at the state line. I don't know. I've only bought one of them, and I wanted to go to Columbus.
And
it was their old delivery point, not at Easton.
To carry
Go ahead.
You have to pay
Tesla
tax.
did.
Go ahead, Larry.
Tesla did deliver the one for Nitro Police.
Oh,
Okay.
John Dupree had his delivered.
Well, that
I
maybe
know one of
this
the-
new law might be changing some of that.
Yeah. I know one of the states that has a law that prohibits it. It come down to the paperwork all had to be signed and the vehicle had to be paid for with your loan before they would deliver it to you in the state. Because at that point, the purchase has already been made, even though it was made out of state. They were able to deliver it to them.
Too bad we don't have any Indian reservations like Arizona did to get around that. I thought that was a very clever loophole that they used.
So there's some Tesla locations on Indian reservations out there?
Well, Arizona, I think it was Arizona, New Mexico or Arizona, one of the southwestern states bans, of course, Tesla sales just like we do. But Indian reservations don't fall under their, jurisdiction. So
Right.
Tesla opened.
They're sovereign nations.
They opened their store and service center on reservation land, and so the state couldn't say anything about it.
Yay. I hope it's New Mexico. I used to live there.
Did any of you guys, Thornton or Terry, did you have to pay tax in the other state and then pay again when you came here?
No, we just had to pay here.
No.
When I bought
And
my
you just
car,
get transit tax.
yeah, they could not license it in West Virginia from Frederick, Maryland. So fortunately, I had a residence still in Maryland. I was able to license it in Maryland and then came here, and I think I paid $75 then to have the title and the license transferred, but I did not have to pay sales tax. My wife thought I was going to have to pay sales tax twice, but I was making an argument for years that West Virginia was losing all this tax revenue, but apparently they're not. If you register it in West Virginia, even though you pick it up, you pay West Virginia the equivalent tax in West Virginia. So
Right.
they've not been losing any money.
I did
Yeah,
have
it never gets titled in the other state.
Yeah, I was required to put temporary
Yeah.
West Virginia tags on my Prius Prime. I had owned a regular Prius, which I purchased in 2005. And then 2017, when I got my plug-in hybrid, I got a like $700, $800 trade-in and just, kept my license plate, but I wasn't allowed to drive it with that license plate. I had to get Virginia temporary tags. And then eventually I was able to, go through the paperwork, went to the Division of Motor Vehicles office in Charleston, and I have the same license plate I had on my old Prius. But I did have to purchase Virginia temporary tags and go through, have it registered in Virginia. And, so it was just a little bit of an inconvenience. But the reason I had to go to Virginia was they weren't selling. I wanted to have either a red or a blue Prius Prime so I could find the thing in a parking lot. And I wanted to have a test drive, even in a white one. And so one of the dealerships in near St. Albans arranged a time for me to have a test drive in 2017. I arrived on Saturday morning and it hasn't arrived yet. Well, I said, well, you shouldn't arrange for somebody to test drive a vehicle till it's arrived at your dealership. So I said, I've had with West Virginia, so I went ahead and went through Car Gurus and basically sent interrogatories to a whole bunch of dealerships in Virginia and Maryland that I found, by Car Gurus as places that I could purchase the cars, and then decided the best price was one over in Tyson's Corner near Washington, D.C. But it shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be that hard to buy an electric vehicle or a plug-in hybrid. It's ridiculous, in my opinion.
Yep.
You have to go through that much rigmarole.
All right, guys. Well, we got just about 5-6 minutes left here. Anybody else have any news, happenings, events coming up? Any other items that we should put on the table? We do have a members meeting coming up in April. I think it'll be, let me look, April, if I can get on the right month, the 9th, April the 9th. And then, of course, Rick's Earth Day event on April 20th.
On the meeting?
I think someone asked, are we still having the EV and coffee that month?
Oh, in April, is that what we're asking? Yes, I mean, the coffee and EVs we do separately. It's always try to do the last Saturday of the month. The members meetings happen quarterly, second Saturday of the month. So those are always just separate.
It's still 9 to 10.
Yeah, still 9 to 10.
Okay, so it will be April 30th then.
Yes, April 30th for the EV and coffee.
Okay.
I will add one little story related somewhat to what Thornton just said. About 2 weeks ago, I told Larry about this. I was going to driving to Hinton and following a Mustang, and I noticed there was no tailpipe. And so I kept following him. He pulled in at the post office, and it's somebody from Brooks, West Virginia, just like 7 miles from me, who just bought this electric Mustang, the Mach-E. And he went all the way to Connecticut to get it.
Oh, wow.
But, and he went to, they carried it on a truck, I think, to Martinsburg, in your neck of the woods, Robert, and then drove it the rest of the way and refueled in Stanton. But anyway, it's interesting. I didn't get him. I'd never seen the guy before, but he's an old local fella, and I hope to run into him again and get him more interested in checking us out. So.
You guys might have talked about this while I was having my technical difficulties there, but is there an event over in the Barbersville Mall today?
Huntington.
Yeah.
We have a community booth from noon to 6 to answer questions about EVs. And once every hour, I'm allowed to make an announcement over the PA system telling them that we're there. And my announcement starts out, are you tired of ever rising gas prices? And then if you have questions about an EV, we have experienced, not experts, experienced EV drivers at the community booth until 6 p.m. And I'll be there, and Mary Ann's going to come, and then we have one other person.
Okay, I'll probably stop by and say hi to you then.
Sure, love to have you. It's down by where the old Sears was.
Okay, thanks.
Terry, I was supposed to be there from, what was it, Rick, 2 to 4?
2 to 4.
So if there's any chance you could go 2 to 4, you fill my spot.
Anytime is fine.
Yeah, I could arrange that.
All right, Rick. We'll be interested to hear what kind of reception you get at the mall.
Yeah, the mall was very interested in our having an EV display, but they require that we be insured. Well, Robert sent me the forms, which I then forwarded to Margie. She said, "Oh yeah, that's fine. Your EVA group program insurance is fine. Just name." And it's not called the Huntington Mall, but the owners of it. And then we won't bring it inside because people would have to leave their car there for a whole day, and nobody wants to do that. So what we'll probably do instead is schedule some kind of an outdoor display, maybe outside the food court, but probably outside the post office entrance by Dick's Sporting Goods, and just have a bunch of EVs. And maybe, and Scott had this idea, will be someone at the booth and then direct them out to actually see some EVs, as long as we're insured. Otherwise, if we just do it without the insurance, and we send them from a place inside the mall, then once we'd have to get the insurance. So Margie, after today, she and I are going to meet again and see if we have any interest in our group having an EV display in the mall. And probably you could get some TV publicity for that.
Okay, so that'd be a future event that would be scheduled, right, Rick?
She wanted to do it during the Earth Week, but I don't think we can do it that fast. I think it'll have to be a May Day event or middle of May or something like that.
Well, just make sure that insurance stuff, we have to probably submit that at least a couple weeks ahead of time to get all the paperwork set up. And I can send you the contact for that, but it's pretty easy. You just pretty much send them the basic info about when and where, and who needs to be named, and then they generate the paperwork, send it back to you.
Good.
Now,
Good to see you all.
For Earth Day week at Marshall, are we having to do any of that insurance? Is Marshall covering it?
We never did it before for the thing at Marshall, but we weren't giving any rides in owner cars. We were just having a display. So since they invited us to come onto their property, I would presume that their Earth Day insurance covers people, not us necessarily, but people that say, I tripped over a car and it's your fault. And so that I think we're protected. We didn't have to have any insurance for the last event, but it's a scheduled deed event. So maybe they automatically have that insurance. I'm registered with the National, so maybe that makes all the difference.
I think that it's their event. It's their event, and you're invited. You're a guest to their event. It's different when we want to have an event and we're asking somebody to allow us to use their property for our event. Then they generally want to be covered with insurance.
Yeah, they want a certificate of insurance. Okay.
Right. Which is the one of the good benefits we get from being a chapter of the National Association is they do make that insurance available to us for any of our events. But to be clear to everyone, that does not cover personal vehicles. And if you do a ride or let somebody drive your vehicle, that does not cover that. Only at the event, if somebody gets out of your car and trips and falls and hits their head, then it's covered. But if you go for a ride and are in an accident, that of course that is not covered. All right. Well, we're right at 10. So if nothing else, thanks everyone for joining. Appreciate you coming out. Hopefully with the weather getting a little better, maybe we can do some in-person stuff. I know I've had a couple requests to do another in-person event up here in the Eastern Panhandle. We get together at a local coffee roaster that's nearby. So we'll probably try to do that again here in the next month or so. So I'll put something out about that for the local folks.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, take care.